English. Let's start. So welcome, good morning from nowadays foggy Upper Austria. And when I look out of the window, this is the second of a general coaching workshop on IP. And the topic today is practical approach to pattern search with free tool Espacenet. Maybe shortly to a background, I had the honor to be well acquainted with the so-called father of Espacenet, which is nowadays 23 years old. Nigel Clark was one of the most important experts working on it. And he also initiated Espacenet New, and I had the pleasure to be a pre-tester of Espacenet New and also to use it in a large European IP project, VIP for SME. So therefore, although I'm normally working with commercial search tools, I'm also very familiar with Espacenet. Let's start with the agenda. I already welcomed you, and now we would like to make a short online query about your experience with pattern search. So my colleague Karina Schachinger will show the Mentimeter query. And please use your handies, use your mobile phones to log in with the data given and to indicate what experience you have with pattern search, please.
Yes, so now you find the link in the chat and you can follow it to the question we are very interested to get to know from you.
Don't be shy. It's anonymous. So Google Patterns is the front runner currently, but also Espacenet has some fans. Okay, Karina, do you have an indication whether we still have to wait for some answers or whether this is it?
I guess that's the final result.
Okay.
So Google Patterns is the winner.
Yeah, I almost expected it actually, and I also gave once some overview on different kinds of pattern search tools, and I also introduced Google Patterns. With Google Patterns, you always have to consider that nowadays, or since some time already, they have a second, more advanced version. So please make sure that you use the more advanced recent version, which gives you more flexibility in the searches and more options. But nevertheless, I would like to show you that the runner-up Espacenet has a lot more flexibility, options, and documentation to consider. So then I would like to share my screen again and introduce you with the agenda. So we will start then with dealing with pattern search with Espacenet Classic, because I have to say that there are these two versions. Espacenet Classic is still ongoing, but you may expect that over the years it will be shut down, and so you should also get acquainted with Espacenet New. But currently, you will see in the presentation that there are some pros also for Espacenet Classic. If you don't want to dive deep into the whole thing, it may be enough to use Espacenet Classic. Later on, I will then invite you to solve an example yourself using. So if you don't have the link, maybe I can put it in the chat, or Karina may put it in the chat, but you will also find it easily by just typing Espacenet. And there are these two EPO, like European Patent Office and Espacenet. You get to a page where you have the choice between the two options. So, and then after a break of a quarter of an hour, I will show you that Espacenet New offers quite more possibilities, quite more search criteria, and the new way how to use it. And this will be then also followed by an example 2, which you are invited to solve and to also give your results into the Mentimeter query. And later on, as also with example 1, I will show you the solution I would prefer. Afterwards, we will have a short feedback with Mentimeter, with a word cloud, and also some feedback to us as presenter and organizers. And then you are always invited during the whole session to post questions into the chat, and my colleague Karina will then collect these questions, put them on some slide, and we will then have time at the end to answer your questions. So please use this possibility to get your questions answered. Okay. Without further ado, I would like to switch to the first module and give you a, let's say, some overview on practical approaches to patent search with the free tool Espacenet. This free tool Espacenet has gives you access to over 130 million patent documents. This is actually the patent library, the online and electronic patent library of the European Patent Office. And it has grown quite a lot because I started with my IP expert career with some 80 million patent documents almost 16 years ago, and nowadays we have 130 million. And one strong contributor over the last couple of years, for instance, is China. Here you also have some information on this starting page, worldwide.espacenet.com, about the new Espacenet and the key features of it. But I will show these key features with examples in the second presentation. So now let's start with some practical search, clearly a rather small one, which I set up because you may well know that the company Dyson, or let's say the inventor and founder of Dyson, is a person with thousands and thousands of patents. And nowadays, clearly, not only he, but also other inventors of this big tech company, Dyson, make a lot of inventions. And one of the fields of inventions, the rather earlier one, was about Cyclone vacuum cleaner. So a vacuum cleaner which does not have a dust bag, but instead a cyclone collecting the dust and allowing an easy removal of the dust without disposal of a bag filter. And clearly the most straightforward approach would be just to say, okay, I put cyclone and vacuum and cleaner in the title. By the way, you don't have to use this and in between, because Espacenet anyway interprets different words as being connected by and, unless you use a or yourself. So I have written it with and, but in order to illustrate it for you what the connection is, but you can also leave the and out. So you have these three keywords now in the title, and you have the applicant Dyson. You have a field applicants where you put Dyson in it. You don't have to use it in capital numbers. I just often use this for companies. Here in the insert, I don't have capital letters. And how many patents do we find? In this case, only 4 patents. So maybe you would be satisfied with that, but you shouldn't. Patent search is always something where you shouldn't give in easily. You should really try to vary the search and check whether there are more results if you change the criteria, if you change the search parameters in the search query. So then we have this option in Espacenet Classic. And by the way, this advanced search is already quite powerful, gives you quite a lot of criteria where you can fill in keywords or patent classes or names and so on of applicants, but it is a fixed one. So this structure is totally fixed. And you will learn then afterwards with Espacenet New that with Espacenet New you can set up your own search query with fields you choose. And this makes a lot of difference. But for the beginning, it's maybe easier to just stick to this set of search fields in advanced search here. And in this case, I have used the second option. We can also look in title or in abstract the 3 words. Applicant Dyson stays the same. And you see that quite often when you have more results, you get at first an approximate 59 result, for instance. And if you go through it, go through all the pages, just look at them, just click through the pages, it will then be an exact number. So instead of approximately 59, it is in this case 43 patents. And you see here an indication. It's vacuum and cleaner, it's Dyson, all in orange. And for instance, the Cyclone can be somewhere in the abstract, which you don't see here. But is that all? We don't know. And what I would like to recommend you strongly is not only to stick to keywords, but to use patent classes. Patent classes is a very important feature of patent databases. and these patent classes describe the detailed technological area the patent application is dealing with. Normally, you have quite a number of patent classes, which is given by the examiner at the patent office. So it's not the applicant giving the patent classes, it's the examiner. And these days, supported by artificial intelligence, the decision is with him or her then, but she gets, let's say, a proposal from artificial intelligence. This technical text could be flagged by these patent classes. And in this case, you have to look also to the left. You have these three fields in Espacenet Classic. You have Smart Search, where you just can enter words, but they can be interpreted as keywords, as inventor, as applicant. So this is not so clear then. You have the Advanced Search, which we have used just before. And you have this classification search. And this classification search leads you to, let's say, at least proposals, again, here also in artificial intelligence, with artificial intelligence ordered according to, let's say, relevance. So artificial intelligence says, if you ask for Cyclone vacuum cleaner, these three keywords in this search for the patent classification, then I would propose you most to this first classification, but it could also be one of the later one. And in fact, it's quite often the first one, but not always. So you always should check whether one of the following patent classifications is better suited to the technical area you are searching. In this case, it is correct. It is this ACE 47L900, because this means details or accessories of suction cleaners and so on. But in this level, it is still a bit general. So there are a lot more subclasses which you can reach by this black triangle, and which I will show you in another case. But in this case, let's just use this higher hierarchy of the patent class. Let's just use here below in the CPC class A47 L9 and /low means that all the patent subclasses below are also taken in the search. This is quite important. This is, let's say, the regular setting. If you choose one of the classes from the classification search, normally it is always indicated with /low. And if you only want the upper class or several of the subclasses, but not all of them, you have to click them separately. In this case, we have now Dyson as applicant and such a patent class, which is at least rather relevant, but maybe a bit too general because it's not going into the details. So you have Dyson, you have this patent class, and you end up with a bunch of patents. So you see Dyson Tech Limited is one of the patent champions of the world, I would say. And they have really a lot of. But the question now is it really that much? Because I have told you that although we have got this class proposed when we used Cyclone vacuum cleaner as keywords in the classification search, that does not mean that Cyclone is really prominently there. And if you really want to look for Cyclone vacuum cleaners, because A47L9/low is also about vacuum cleaners, and therefore not specific enough. But if you now introduce Cyclone into title or abstract, like we do it here, so you have applicant Dyson, you have the pattern class, but you also have Cyclone now in it has to be Cyclone in title or abstract. And you will see the enormous difference, although still high. We are now talking not about almost 3,000 patents. We are talking about approximately 300. I have already told you this approximately always appears if it's a higher number of results. And if you go through the pages, you can reduce them, or you can get the exact number. So that's all now for the Cyclone vacuum cleaner. And now I would like to go to another quite relevant topic of nowadays, which IPC or CPC. So I may tell you the difference. IPC means International Patent Classification. This is the long-lasting, well-established one, which comprises some 72,000 patent classes. But since I would say some 15 years, there has been a cooperation between the European Patent Office and the US Patent Office to get to a common patent classification or cooperative patent classification, because the United States Patent Office used a completely different patent class system. And in this joint venture, they tried to come to a combined system, to a cooperative patent class, which nowadays offers more than 150,000 classes, subclasses, and subclasses. So, in fact, if you go to the details of CPC, and if you find a very suitable one, then the big advantage is that you don't have to use many keywords, which are always a problem, because you cannot be sure that an applicant of a patent application some years before really used the same keywords. Maybe he or she expressed it in a different way. And with patent classes, you are on safe ground, because they are addressed by patent examiners. So the long and short, we look for patent classification solar cell. We again use this classification search in the classic Espacenet. So we put solar and cell, and this means, by the way, by default it is solar and cell. Yeah? And you then click on the search button and you get this proposal. And also here, the first hit is the best one. But I may shortly comment the other two. The Y classification is actually a rather new classification. Also, I would say in the last 15 to 10 years, this has been a major venture to make a kind of a combined classification system, especially in the field of renewable energy sources. The speciality about the Y class is that they are not so much, or they are not very specific to the detailed technology you use in this case, but more to the targets you have. For instance, like something with solar energy, but it may be photovoltaics, it may be solar heat. This is totally different in the classical system, but it is combined in this new Y classification, and especially this YO2E 10/00 is about energy generation through renewable energy sources. And this can be a lot of things. And this makes searching easier, and also assessment, for instance, for countries who have to catch up what technologies are available and which of them should I use, but in a more comprehensive approach. Okay, so we have used the classification search. We have come to this input of solar cell, and we click search, and the best choice is this H01L31/00, because it is about semiconductor devices sensitive to infrared radiation, but also to light and so on. So at least in this high level, it is the best class. But now I may show you that by using this black arrow, by clicking on the black arrow, you can display all the details below. And actually, you see here some cut between this last one for solar cells, which is still 02021. So already a very detailed subclass. And I have cut it in between to have a good representation without the letters being too small. And what I have considered as the best choice is this H01L3104, because this means that this class H01L31, the 1 point means this is the class just below, and 2 points means this is a subclass of the 04 and so on. But in this case, if you click at the H01L3104, then you choose automatically all the subclasses below. If you want to do it differently, you have to declick those which you are not interested in. So we use now this H01L3104 low again, because all the others below also. And we insert this. We can insert this either into IPC or CPC. And we are looking for, yeah, okay. I have to stop a moment and say, we are not only looking for solar cells, we are looking for solar cells with a patent applicant Siemens and with amorphous silicon. It is quite some time ago that this technology was, let's say, developed, we are talking about some 40 to 35 years. But as I'm a bit older, I remember that amorphous silicon was considered as a good option for cheaper solar cells, because amorphous silicon can be fabricated in quite low cost way compared to the wafers where you have a single crystal silicon. Clearly, single crystal silicon has better energy output and so on, better conversion rates of the light, but it is much more expensive. And there has been quite some development with amorphous silicon to increase the conversion rates of light and to make it more feasible. And these patterns can be seen in that way. So we use this amorphous and say, first of all, we have checked the pattern class, and the pattern class we searched for the term solar cells, whereas amorphous silicon is better suited to be considered as keywords, which we can find in, for instance, in the title or title and abstract. So we have these two keywords in the title. We have the applicant Siemens. We have the IPC class, which we have searched before in the classification search and checked in the total display of all the subclasses. And we have the alternative option also to put the keywords into title or abstract. And I will show you the difference of the two things. So first of all, in the title, amorphous and silicon. And by the way, I have not used amorphous, I have used amorph, and the asterisk, this means a truncation. So it can be amorph, it can be amorphous, and some variations of that. Quite often it is recommendable to use this asterisk for truncation, starting from just singular and plural to some variations of the word. So with amorphous and silicon in the title, with Siemens as applicant, and with pattern class for solar cells, we get 14 results, and you always have it written here also perfectly that you have amorph and silicon in title and Siemens as applicant and H01L31/04 as the IPC classification. So 14 results, and you also have again all these highlighting in orange of the keywords and the applicants we have searched for. And if you put amorphous and silicon in title or abstract, because abstract is clearly quite longer than the title, still you don't have a lot more, but instead of 14, you at least have 20 run results now, which are also relevant in this case. And here you have now the possibility to check some hits, some results in detail. So we are now looking at this one US patent, US 4543443. You see, it's quite an old one. We are talking about 35 years here. And you have this amorphous silicon solar cells, you have amorphous silicon as keywords in the title even. And you have the applicant indicated here is Siemens. If you only put in Siemens in German words, you have, or in this case with company names, if it's Siemens Tech or whatever, it does not matter. You anyway will find it. So you have these search items, for instance, the keywords in the title, the applicant, and the classification. The IPC classes are given in this international classification line, and the CPC classes are indicated here in the cooperative pattern classification. And you see that you have here longer numbers because it's subclasses here. And very important also, you have the pattern family, which is cited or which is given as also published as. And for instance, here you see that you had an A2 document. This means an application without search report because it came later. A1 would be with search report. You have here the A3. This is the search report only. And you have then a B1 document. This means this is the granted patent. Quite often a granted patent distinguishes or is different from the application, because if the international patent search has resulted in some novelty destroying patents for some details, quite often the claims have to be changed, especially claim 1, to reach to a status where you are not only absolutely and worldwide new, but also inventive. And here you have, for instance, also Japanese application and the German one. The German one quite often then gets cancelled. If you have a European one, you can extend it then to Germany. So you don't have to use both anymore. And you have with patent translate, I have written good, but actually it's very good translation. This is a long cooperation between the European Patent Office and Google, which made it possible to translate into all the European languages, and also to and from, especially from Asian languages like Chinese, Japanese, Korean, and so on. And this is nowadays, it after some, I would say, some 20 years already of ongoing development and improvement, it has now reached a status, if you rate it between 1 and 5, and 5 is a very good translation, a very good human translation of somebody who is also experienced in the technical field, or at least with the technical expressions in this field. So this is 5, and this machine translation nowadays reaches approximately 4, and this makes this renders it very well usable for normal checking. The only cases where you still have to rely on a professional translation is maybe if you really have a patent quarrel, if you really have to, let's say, be careful with every word which is written there, then you may need a human translation. But for normal informative purposes, this patent translate is very well suited. and you have not always, but quite often you have an abstract with a sketch. Then let's, okay, I have skipped now description. So we started with bibliographic data here to the left upper corner. Description would be some text, and quite important is the claims which you can depict or which you can display right away here. And you can either use original claims or a claims tree where we see which subclaim is depending on which upper claim. But most important always is the independent claim or main claim, and this is in most cases claim 1. I say in most cases because if you have a procedural or a process, if you have a process patent, then you can have a main claim about the process, the inventive process, and either the product resulting from the process can be an independent claim too, or also a machine, an apparatus which is used for, which is necessary for the process and which is also innovative and new and inventive, can also be an independent claim. But in many cases, we are just talking about claim 1 as the main claim, and this is also in this case. So this main claim or claim 1 is really the most important one, because afterwards, if a patent is granted, this independent claim is what counts. So you violate a patent if you do it like described in the main claim or in claim 1, and you are out of the patent range if you do something, at least one of the normally 3 to 8 different criteria or features. So all features have to be violated in order to violate it, but you have to be careful if you just drop a feature, although you don't have a better solution, you just drop it because you don't want to violate the patent, then you are still violating it because it is a worsened copying. Yeah. So be careful if you have a different, if you just drop a feature, you have to have a good technical explanation why you can drop it, best by introducing another feature which is new and which gives advantages. So the next thing I wanted to show you is this legal status information, INPADOC legal status. And here you see, for instance, you always have to scroll down to the bottom because at the bottom there are the most recent events. I mean, in this case, it's long ago. And you learn here that there is a code, lapse for failure to pay maintenance fees. So this is the normal way how to drop a patent, that you just don't pay the annual fees. It is then there is this kind of a waiting period then, but afterwards it's the expression is deemed to be withdrawn often, and in 99% of the cases it's an intentional dropping of the patent because it does not make sense anymore and so on. And if you really have forgotten to pay, then you have a short period where you still can pay it afterwards, but with a higher fee. Another important thing is the IMPADOC patent family. So here you see that the IMPADOC patent family for this US patent comprises 4 applications. So you have the US patent, which we have started from. You have a German patent application, which has, so, and you always also see here this priority date. So the priority date is most likely here with the German patent application, but all those international applications which are done within 1 year from the first application in the first country, they still can use the same priority date, this first filing. And this is done here. Okay, and just one remark, maybe just one short remark. I don't want to go into it because this is a different topic, but this global dossier gives some legal information also for US patents, for Chinese patents, and so on. Whereas for European patents, normally you have a very good European patent register. Now we want to download this patent, for instance, and for this purpose we have to go to original document, and you have here this indicated in color, this download feature here, and here you can download it. But you need to put in numbers or sometimes also letters. But I think in this case it's always numbers, because this verification is meant against automatic bots, which would retrieve thousands and thousands of patents in the same time, where a normal user would just look at 2 or 3. And this is clearly not in the sense of the free access to Espacenet. So you have to distinguish between a free access for, let's say, personal use in a limited number, and then for broadband access, which is used by a lot of commercial patent search programs, and they have a contract with the European Patent Office that they pay for their, let's say, high numbers of patents they can retrieve. A very interesting thing is also this citing documents. I mean, there is also cited documents, but cited documents is something which either the applicant is mentioning what he found in some patent search he made, or he had made, or he had received from IP expert, search expert, but here and also cited documents are also by the patent examination by the patent office. So also there you find cited documents, but citing documents is even more interesting, because this is a way to search for patents which have been applied later and which are at least approximately in the same technical fields, because they cite this one US patent of Siemens as state of the art, which they want to improve. And in this case, and a high number of citing documents is normally also a quality indication of a patent. And here you have 20 patents which you can also check for relevance in some own patent search. So 20 later filings citing this US patent, and at least some can be relevant for a patent search. And so now I would say, let's have you jump in and try whether you can already use information you have received to tackle this question in exercise 1. So now we are not talking about the Cyclone vacuum cleaner from Dyson, but we are talking about this Dyson Airblade. And you probably are well acquainted with this rather modern way of getting your hands dried by hot air. And the question now is, how many patents are there, and especially also how many European patents, EP patents, are there, which Dyson had not only applied for, but also got granted. And I have some tips for you here, and this slide will also stay a bit longer, that you can look at it in detail. So the first tip is use a classification search to find the appropriate patent class. It may be the cooperative patent class here. And just now, an important hint, although Dyson uses the word Airblade, but this is more kind of a marketing approach, and probably also protected by a trademark, but this is not a proper description of the technical field. So my hint is describe the technical fields with 3 keywords. I mentioned them already before. What is the medium? What is the temperature, and what gets cleaned? You see it here. Yeah. So this could be used very well to find the patent classification. And then you also have this question, how many EP patents? European patents, this is a way of a joint application and examination, but later on, nowadays, it still has to be validated in each country to get nationally valid as a granted patent. But it is very important to use this, because with EP, you can have the doors opened to 38 countries plus 4 extension states. So in fact, you have an option to choose between 42 countries where you will later validate it. And how can we look for this EP patent? This is a rather simple trick, because you have, for instance, publication numbers. This is one way. This is one fixed field in Espacenet Classical. And by just using EP as the first 2 letters, you actually look for all EP numbers. If you don't, so you don't even have to use as asterisk. You can use just EP. And then you get the result lists. And in the result list, please check how many patents have been applied. So this is just the number in the result list. And then in the result list, you also have an indication how many of those patents have been granted. And the indication is this legal status letter, because whereas A means only applied, B means granted. So please check where it is granted. And I would like to give you some time now. And Karina has or will show you how do you get to Mentimeter to put in your result. But I would suppose, first of all, take some time to deal with this patent search exercise.
Yes, hello everybody, this is Karina. I put the link to Espacenet in the chat, so you can try yourself with the patent search. This slide with the tips will be shown for the next 5 minutes, and afterwards I will show you the results of your searches. So for everybody who already has a result, you find the link to the Mentimeter survey in the chat now. And please let us know your search result.
So in this case, it's kind of a multiple choice test. You may well be acquainted with multiple choice tests, but please don't just guess. I hope you also have found it say feasible to follow the instructions and to cope with this search exercise. Come on, don't be shy. So maybe for let's say second chance, I will give you a hint which words you should use for the classification search. It is hot. Yeah, I said so. Best is maybe hot air hand dryer. But you may also probably you can also use air hand dryer. So maybe for the one participant who just gave this feedback that he got stuck with the CPC, please use these words: hot air hand dryer. Come on, you don't get grades. Just jump into the cold water. Try it with these words.
So yeah, basically when I do that, I get a list of different definitions, but I don't think that anyone actually, I cannot see that it's within the area. I mean, body drying implements, toilet paper holders, therefore. But then if you go into that, maybe, I mean, it's not. Then you have like other stuff,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
so I cannot find actually the right.
Yeah. So maybe this is always the case with the first exercise, that you are not too well acquainted maybe. So I would propose that we stop it at that point, and I will show you the solution. And Thomas, I hope that you then.
Yeah, that I think would be good.
Okay. So. So the solution is use this hot air hand dryer, like I proposed in the classification search, and you get the. I have to admit it's more than one, yeah. But theoretically, before choosing nothing, you could also choose this, let's say, higher hierarchy class F26B21/00, because this is also not really bad. But if you use this triangle to depict the subclasses, there is one subclass F26B21/004, which is about nozzle assemblies. It's about air knives, it's about air distributors, and it's especially about blow boxes. And this is exactly what is meant in the case of this exercise, and also in the case of Dyson. So you choose this one by clicking on it, you choose it, and you can directly also insert it into this advanced search if you want. There is this option to do this. So I have it now here, what I have chosen, and I just add now Dyson, and so these two, and I'm arriving at 9 results found in the worldwide database for Dyson as applicant, and this patent classification or F26B21/004 low, and you see that in most cases it's Dyson technology, but here you have a Russian, even a Russian patent application, which is also then granted. Here it's a C2 for granted, and so you see that Dyson is patenting it in a lot of countries, because Russia is not reachable within EP. You have to address this within 1 year directly with the Russian Patent Office. And you see also the description in the title, hand dryer or dryer for hands. But with this patent class, which is indicated here, that it's at least one of the classes given by the patent examiner for these applications, you are much more specific. And now about how many EP patents. You see here we have a US patent, we have a Russian patent, or 2 Russian patents, and some more, which I did not depict here. And how can we find the EP patents? So here we have Dyson as applicant, this patent classification, and 9 results. And now I have used EP as the publication number, as I mentioned, Dyson as the applicant, and this one as cooperative patent classification. And so we have additionally this EP as publication number. And now we have 9 results, and all of them are now EP numbers, like you see here. So this means simply that all 9 patent applications have not only been applied in the US, in Russia, and where, but all of them also had a European patent application. And if you want to see the European patent application, just use EP as the publication number, and you will get the EP document indicated here. And if you click on it, you can also download it. So this is it. I mean, I understand that it's not that easy, maybe for in the first exercise how to do it. But the good thing is you will get all these presentations as PDF files, and you can then check them in detail later on. And if you try yourself to tackle some search issue, you can look it up there. So later on, after the workshop, you will get the mail with the information how to look at, and especially also to download these presentations from our own cloud, because I have put them into a special file with a password, but these 2 informations, link and password, will be provided to you. Okay, now I would say we have deserved some pause of 15 minutes, or let's say almost 15 minutes. Let's start sharp at 10:30, please. And relax a bit, have some drink, at least water or coffee. And I'm looking forward to have you still on board after the break. See you then. Bye.
And just one last comment, maybe, Thomas, your question regarding the CPC classification will be saved for the Q&A session at the end. So we don't forget it.
Okay, fine. Thanks, Karina. And feel free to ask more questions till the end, because I'm eager to answer your questions after the presentations. Carina, hörst du wieder? Yeah, welcome back after the break. I hope this break was enough to calm you down after a lot of information with Espacenet Classic, so that we now can dive into Espacenet New. So Espacenet New has a lot of advantages. It was also developed over quite some years and offers more option, is flexible, and allows tailor-made search queries, which can also be saved, and provides especially also an improved overview on details of the patterns found. I mean, there are a lot more advantages, but I would say let's just start it and see what differences you detect. So the link is again this one, worldwide.espacenet.com. I mean, quite often, or it's maybe easiest for you to search, if you don't have the link at hand, to search for EPO, like European Patent Office, and Espacenet, and there you have a page where you can decide which way to go. So this is now Espacenet New. It has some similarities, but on the other hand, it's quite different. And there is also a pocket guide, and there is, for instance, a video with introduction to Espacenet New. So you see, this is a bit older because they here state over 100 million, and in fact, the latest number is over 130 million. So if we now tackle the same questions in Espacenet New, you remember we asked which patent class has Cyclone vacuum cleaner. You will see that the classification search is not a lot different. So you have rather the same appearance, and you can see here these patent classes which are detected by artificial intelligence as coping best with Cyclone vacuum cleaner as keywords in the classification search. And again, so we have inserted these three keywords here, and again this patent class here is considered most suited to the needs. And here you see a quite different picture. But this different picture you only see if you use the slider of advanced search, and if you put it to the right, if there is this green indication here, this means the advanced search is on. And I already mentioned it when presenting Espacenet Classic, that here in Espacenet New, with the advanced search, you can decide which fields you want and only those fields. And you can have a lot of variations and a lot of specific searches here. So here we just have these two options, and you always can add a field from here. In fact, when you start it from scratch, there is even a number of fields given here, but I recommend to remove them and to start by adding fields, and by changing here with this this arrow down, you can choose between what you want here, patent class, here applicants. So also here I could change to patent class or to some keywords or whatever in title, abstract claims, and so on, as you will see it later. If we just start now with this patent classification, which is still rather broad, because the direct result is this one, as we saw it before. And if you want to go into more details, it's clearly possible. Then you have to look whether one of the subclasses is better suited. Okay, having said this, we get with this cooperative patent class and the applicant Dyson 553 results, which are given here. And you see also in the highlighting that the Dyson we have looked for is most of the time connected to Dyson Technology Limited. But there may also be other Dyson companies, and it is most probable that all of them belong to the same thing, which is not true for a lot of other companies. So there you have to distinguish which company do you mean and which is not meant, and you can exclude it. So, and now, as I said, this classification is not really only for cyclones. It contains cyclones, but it contains also classical vacuum cleaners without the cyclone. And therefore, as already shown in the case of Espacenet Classic, it is maybe best to use Cyclone additionally in title, abstract, or claims. So how did we get to this this field? I used this plus field, push button or field here, and then I got this additional field where you can choose what you want by clicking on this arrow down, and I chose title, abstract, or claims, and you may detect that this is broader than what was possible in Espacenet Classic, because in Espacenet Classic you had the choice between title or title and abstract, title or abstract. Yeah? So, but claims was not searchable in the classic Espacenet. It is searchable here, and this is quite important because in the claims you have to be quite specific, and therefore it is also relevant that you can search in the claims. So if we now search in the claims, title, abstract, or claims, instead of 553, we have now 163. So this Cyclone, if you really want to have this in the results, we have to choose it in title, abstract, or claims. And we get, and this, I also want to mention that these three dots, dots in a vertical line, they are very important because they give a lot of options. They, if you click at them, you get the menu, like I will show you right afterwards. But first of all, we have here you can choose which of the results you want to take into more consideration. For instance, to put it into the patent list of my Espacenet. This is one of the options in this vertical dot line. So this vertical dot line is very important. And here you see what happens if you click on this vertical dot line. And here you have the option, for instance, of download, of print, and especially important is this add selection to my patents. So for instance, if it's not really 163, but even then you can go through it. But if it's maybe 25 or so, you can go through the title and the short abstract extract and so on. And you can choose, for instance, 8 of them by clicking in this box. And then you can add selection to my patents, and my patents is displayed in my Espacenet. So you can later find this in the my Espacenet line. The only problem is maybe a problem. It is a problem for me as a kind of a professional patent searcher. You cannot distinguish, for instance, between certain client names and so on. So you always have to save this my Espacenet to a separate file, and then you clear it again before you start the next patent search with another topic. Yeah, so you always click it here. You can also choose more than one. I just wanted to show this here with this add selection to my patents. And if you choose one of the patents, like I did here with the first one, you can also take any one you like. You will get it displayed in the third column here. So in this case, you have all the things. You have the search query with quite a good overview, optical overview, what you did with the search query. You have the number of results and all these results displayed here. And the one patent which you choose here in the results list is indicated on the right side. And here I just want to make a short hint. Register, for instance, is a very important thing because the European Patent Register offers a lot of detailed information about legal status and all the events and so on. And global dossier is very relevant if it's not the European patent or world patent, because here you also get information, for instance, about US patents, about Chinese and so on. And again, here you see the line of the vertical line of 3 dots. And now I want to show you that you can also enlarge this one patent by, first of all, remove or sliding the advanced search to the left. So the advanced search is removed, and then also take this arrow to the left to remove the results list. And it then looks like this. So you have just this one patent. And here you also have a drawing. Normally, it's the most relevant drawing, quite often from the first page, which is depicted here. And you see again, you have here the bibliographic data. You have Dyson Technology Limited as applicant. We were looking for Dyson, so we find it here. You see that you have a lot of IPC, International Pattern Classification, and even more of cooperative pattern classification, which is, let's say, more detailed. And I just want to show you that we were looking for A47L9/00, and this is, for instance, considered here. So another very important thing, I mean, you have also this long list. You remember in Espacenet Classic, it was a box to the left upper corner with these things, practically the same things: bibliographic data, description, claims, drawings, original documents, citations, legal events, and patent family. So it's only another way of depicting it, but not another story. And now I would like to show you the legal events. If you have clicked this one, you see this display, and in this display you should always down scroll. I mean, this is already down scrolled, but if you start looking at legal events, you are in the upper region, and you should down scroll because down at the bottom there are the most recent events, and there has already been quite some information lapsed and so on, but the most recent two ones were that also in France and in Germany it was lapsed in a contractual state via post-grant information from national office. So it was already in national office, it was valid some time, but then they had the patent dropped. So these were the two final ones in France and Germany. And the indication, the event date where this was, let's say, visible to the public or to the searcher was only on the 30th of April this year. And this even a bit later, end of May this year. But in fact, the effective date was almost a year before. So here, not here in this case in Germany, not, but in case of France, it took almost a year that this information really was depicted in Espacenet. So this is a kind of an uncertainty which is tried to be removed by another thing, but this is only a small hint now, without going into detail, that in the European Patent Register, you have nowadays a deep linking which allows you to go directly into the patent offices websites of the nations, of the various countries, and to get the latest information from there. Again, if we have the same topic, filings of Siemens for solar cells with amorphous silicon, now we are better off because we also already know the patent class. So we know that it is H01L31/04. We again have, and this query had to be built again from scratch, as you may say. I have chosen a field for applicants. I have chosen a field for IPC or CPC. This is quite important that you, or this is the best option that you say can be IPC or CPC. And this /low means all the subclasses are also searched. And you have here in this case, and I will show it now here. So you have Siemens as applicant. The solar cells is indirectly input by first making a classification search. The amorphous is in title, abstract, or claims, is searched in title, abstract, or claims. And the silicon is also searched in title, abstract, or claims. And all of them, all of these conditions are connected by AND. Yeah. So then, and here you have this operator like any. And you get 40 results. And now I would like to show you another way, because if you really want to look for amorphous silicon as connected words, you can use here a proximity function. So here you instead of any, you can use proximity, and then if you choose proximity with this arrow down, you get this option words away from, and you can choose 1, 2, 3, and so on, or even more. Here I just made a very strict one. So it's 1 words away. That means there is nothing in between. We are really looking for amorphous silicon. And you see it also here that it's always amorphous silicon in one double word, or 1 word after the other. So we have 1 word away from. And here it is also for the connoisseurs, you have here the search query in the right syntax. And the nice thing is normally you don't have to care about this syntax, because it is automatically set up when you choose these fields and so on. But here you see that text, you have amorph, proximity, distance, less than 1 silicon. So this is really directly one after the other. And here you also see this, that's 1 after the other. And instead of 40 results, you now get only 31 results. Another thing, you could also, for instance, use an additional field, publication date. In fact, application date is not possible to be chosen, which would be even the more relevant one. But because application, this is where the priority starts. But publication date is also not bad, so that you can, let's say, choose only the younger ones. But I have to say, as this topic of amorphous silicon for solar cells is quite old, I had to choose a rather old, a rather early publication date here. And here, instead of the 14 or 21, you only get 4 results. I mean, you see that the earliest priority is even less than 1995. Here it is 1994, but it's not the priority date we're looking for, it is the publication date. And here you see at the first one, it's 1995, 14th of December. And here it is, for instance, 1996. We have an earlier publication even, but not this family member, another family member. And here you have again this view of, on the left hand, the advanced search with the tailor-made query. In the middle, the results list, and on the right, 1 patent. In this case, the second one is chosen, and it's indicated here. And on the right side, on the very right side, you have a front page drawing. If we want to have a closer look, and here, for instance, you also have the abstract of this patent indicated. And if we want to have a closer look at this, we can again remove the other windows and only look at this one patent. And here we see that the publication was 18th of June 1996, so later than 1995. And here is this a bit more indicative, or a bit larger, the front page drawing. But if you want to have this larger, then you can choose also drawings. And here you see that you get a quite detailed view on the drawings of this stacked solar cell module. This was a technology where you tried to increase the coefficient of conversion of the light energy by using stacked cells which are semi-transparent, so a part of the light is always going through, and it is then converted in the next layer and so on. And so you reach a higher conversion rate by this. Again, also these citations, as I also mentioned them in Espacenet Classic, they are very relevant, especially the citing documents. I already mentioned that cited documents are by the applicant or by the examiners, which maybe find some novelty destroying things in their patent search. But the citing documents are later, sometimes even much later, and they consider this cited document as a relevant state of the art. Normally, this means they want to improve it. And here, for instance, there's the list of citing documents is, so we have this citation. I chose citing documents only. And here I got the information, the list of citing documents is larger than we can show here. So if it would be only 3, 4, 5, 6 and so on, it would have been shown directly. But in this case, you have to click at the search button, and then you arrive at these 30 results, which are depicted to the lower right corner. Another thing, apart from citations, which we just spoke about, is legal events. And here, if we go to legal events, we see, for instance, that we have the event assignment, because in the US, the inventors are the ones who apply for a patent. But if the inventors are employed by a company, the same holds as in Europe, that the company is in fact then the owner of the patent. But in the US, this has to be done by a so-called assignment. And so the owner is then Siemens Aktiengesellschaft. And this has been done in 1994. And we see here such lapse indications. And here, patent expired due to non-payment of maintenance fees. So, in fact, it was also rather old at this date, but some lapse indications were already at 2000, but part of it continued till 2018. Now I would like to show you what to do if you get such a result as before, the 4 results found. And the first one is a granted Italian patent. And probably you are not so familiar with Italian. So what you can do is, this is the Italian one, that you look for the patent family. And this is the Italian granted patent, procedimento di strutturazione integrato parcelle solaria strato sottile in modalità costruttiva a pila. So, okay. But we also find then in the patent family a German patent application, a French patent application, and even a Japanese patent application apart from the other two. So now I would really invite you to give it a try, this second thing, because I really made some efforts to find a nice example. This is a new example I have, same as the one with the hand dryers. This was also a new example. So in this case, I was interested because I was from time to time in Belgium, especially in Brussels. And in Brussels, they have these waffles. Not only in Belgium and in Brussels, but in Belgium they are a specialty. And therefore, I was looking for some example like that. And the exercise question now is, how many patents have been applied for automatic cleaning of hinged molds of waffles baking apparatus? So here is a citation, because otherwise you should not depict pictures. And this is just a principal picture of such a hinged waffle baking apparatus. And the topic here is automatic cleaning. So my tips would be, first of all, use a classification search to find the appropriate patent class. The hint is, it is about the waffles baking apparatus. Yeah. So these are the words which you should use for a classification search, because quite often you have to distinguish between what is suitable, what words are suitable for a classification search, and what others are better suited as keywords in title, abstract claims, and so on. Yeah. So this waffles baking apparatus shows us which detailed technical field we are looking for. And the automatic cleaning is not really a technical field. It is more or less something you want to do with this, in this technology. And therefore, automatic and cleaning are keywords which should be used in title and abstract and claims. And then the question is, after you have found the appropriate patent class and inserted into the advanced search, and after you have found the keywords, and please do it like that, better start from scratch. So if you see a pre-existing structure, just click it away and start with a add field. And then here, for instance, the patent class which you have first searched in the classification search. So the first thing you should do is look for waffles baking apparatus. Look for these three words in the classification search. If you have found an appropriate patent class by shortly checking what is given there, then you should have another field added where you say name. I think it was name, or yeah, title, abstract, and claims, and you insert there automatic and cleaning, and then you start the patent search. And the additional task would then be how many EP patents have been applied. You remember we did it also in the other example. If you look for EP patents, you just have to insert EP in a publication number. or in this case, it is even possible maybe to have an application number, but never mind, it can be, it's well suited also as publication number. So at first, please make a classification search with Espacenet new. Or you can even make it with Espacenet, but and then you insert this in this field, and you insert the keywords in a field called or chosen as title, abstract, and claims, automatic and cleaning, and then you look for it. So I leave this slide on for you to check, and I would really appreciate if you just give it a try. We don't give bad marks, we just give good marks for let's say engagement. Okay, go ahead, please.
Yes, so please follow again the link in the chat, worldwide.espacenet.com. Try yourself with the pattern search, and I will now put in the chat another link to Mentimeter to show us what you found.
Carina, I think we have still time that we wait. Hopefully, we get at least 1, 2, or 3 other persons jumping in order to make the picture even more vivid. Carina, what do you think? I think at least all participants I see have taken part.
Yes, so the picture becomes clearer.
Okay.
And I think we can continue.
Yeah. Maybe could you click on the answer which should or which would be the best one? I mean, all of them are good because they have engaged themselves in trying, but there is Carina, don't you show it again with this indication of the answer I have chosen or I have found?
What do you mean exactly?
No, never mind. I thought we had prepared it the way that the correct answer is then also depicted after we have received all the answers.
I'm afraid this does not work, but Udo, you for sure know the correct answer. So just tell us.
At least I hope I have it in mind, but we will shortly see. So I would say the 75% are already quite near to the correct answer. Okay, let's then start it the way that I will again share my screen. So here we had this waffles baking apparatus. And if you use the classification search, in this case of Espacenet Classic, but it would be the of Espacenet New, but in fact it would be the same result if you use Espacenet Classic. So I inserted waffles baking apparatus, and here I had a nice hit with hinged molds for baking waffles, because this is actually what I also mentioned here in the question. How many patents have been applied for automatic cleaning of hinged molds? And here you have exactly these hinged molds. So I have chosen this patent class A21B5023, and you then have also the possibility, which is not depicted here, we have also the possibility that you insert it right away in the search. So taking this class, hinged molds for baking waffles, or you can also insert it later. And here is the search query which I have built. So one field for CPC. This means this what we have found before. Let me just see. Yeah, okay. So maybe it could even be IPC or CPC. That it could also work. So we have this pattern class, and then we have title, abstract, or claims chosen. So just add a field, and by clicking this arrow down, you get a drop-down list where you choose the right one. In this case, title, abstract, or claims. And in this case, I have used both of them, but not connected in a way like proximity search. So here, by this class, you have 7 results found. So this is in fact the answer. You have here, for instance, a title, and interestingly enough, it's Russian. Methods for cleaning bottom plates of automatic something, automatic baking systems. But this Russian patent number does not mean it's only in Russian, as you have seen before. And US, here's a US from Haas Food Equipment, which is also quite a renowned company, I suppose, if it is the one I have in mind. And but if we now go, so we have these 7 results, and if we now have an additional, if we now add a field where we choose publication number and EP, then you arrive at only 2 patterns. So this means that in this case, only 2 of the 7 patents have also been applied for as a European patent, and both of them are granted, as you see it here with the B1. I mean, sometimes you cannot be rest assured that it is still granted, but at least this B1 means it has been granted sometimes. Yeah? Whether it is still granted or not, you can find in the European Patent Register, which you can easily access by putting this number even in the simple search with 1 line, or the smart search it is. And with a smart search, if you insert the patent number, you will directly be forwarded to this very patent, and there you have a link to the European Patent Register. We could even give it a try later on. So we have these 2 results. And now I would say we are a bit, we have a bit more time than we thought. So please use the possibility to post questions. I can also offer you to make, let's say, a live demonstration of something which is in your mind. So I would really appreciate if one of you could mention in the post some topic where she or he is interested in, and we could make some live performance that I show you how I would deal with it without a longer preparation time before. So please use the possibility to post questions in the chat, and I offer you that we can then also tackle a patent search question in a live performance.
So Udo, I already received some questions,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I will now show the slide where I put all of them.
Okay, yeah, superb. So we don't have to stick to the agenda. I think it is better to have the questions answered now and to make the feedback maybe later. Yeah.
Yes. So here they are.
Okay. So exercise 1, how do you move from CPC classification shows a specific, be able to use advanced search input?
Yeah, this was the question from Thomas out of the exercise 1.
Yeah, but I would say this is a perfect example then that I show it directly live, either with one of the examples I've already used, but then you see it in the making, or I can also try to tackle a question which is still coming. But otherwise, I would just show it at one of the classifications I have used. Second question, is it popular to use pattern search for exploring how unique, innovative a business idea is? I'm not really sure what is meant. If it's really meant a business, because a business idea is something which cannot be patented in Europe, and therefore it makes only limited sense to make a patent search. But fact is that in the US, you have patents for business ideas or for business methods, for business, yeah. So, and therefore, I would say I have done quite some patent search already, at least where it was not totally sure whether it's whether it's only a business idea or whether there is also a bit of a technical part in it. Because you have to distinguish, in Europe, you can only patent something which has technicality, so which is a technical solution for a technical challenge, technical problem. Business methods or business ideas, I suppose, is the same thing than business methods. Business methods cannot be patented in Europe, and therefore you will also not find European patents for business ideas or business models, but you will find one in the United States. And especially if you want to go to the United States with your business idea, you have to be very careful that you are not running into patent violation problems. So I hope that this summarizes it a bit. Okay, the next question, US patent numbers, German patent numbers. Does it mean that the patent was filed in this country or that it is valid there? Okay, that's a good question. I mean, if you file it directly in the US or in Germany, it means that it was filed there. But I already explained that especially in case of the European patents application, this is a very, let's say, advantageous common application and examination process. So if you apply for a European patent, this is not only searched, because searched are also the other very common way of international patenting is the world patent application. it's also called PCT application, referring to Paris Cooperation Treaty, which is, I think, some 140 years ago, where almost all relevant countries have agreed upon that they will accept a priority date from another country as soon or as long as the patent is then internationalized into their country within 1 year priority. So within this priority year. And this is an excellent way of saving a priority date in one country, wherever it is, and being able to internationalize the patent with referral to this priority date also in another country. So therefore, in case of EP, to come back to the European patent application, this means, and this is valid only for the German patent validation for DE. In this case, it often means, or in practically all cases where a European patent is granted, they also validate it in Germany, because Germany is the biggest market in the European Union or in Europe even, and therefore it is of utmost importance to have a European patent validated in Germany. And validated means the European patent is granted by the European Patent Office, but if you validate it in Germany, the German Patent Office still has a say. So normally they follow the reasoning of the European Patent Office, but they don't have to. If they have some reason why they don't want to have it as a German patent, they can also deny it. But in most cases, they will not deny it because it is a common reasoning. And then it also gets a German patent number. But the difference is that then you find, instead of an A and a B, you find a T like translate. And you can also find it if you are looking for a certain patent number. Quite often two results appear. The one is a patent number which was really filed in Germany, and a total different one, a total different invention idea, where the same number is used but with a T like translated for such a validated European patent. And US patents are not covered by European patent application clearly. But for instance, there is the case, instead of directly applying it to the United States Patent Office within this one priority year, you could also go for an international patent application via PCT. Then you get the WO number, like World Organization, which is for the WIPO in Geneva. And this world patent application allows you to have another 1.5 years. So in total, from the first priority date, 2.5 years to decide where you want to validate it nationally. And in this case, quite often, you validate it in the United States, meaning that there is also then a US patent number which has not been originally filed in the States, but which has been derived from a world patent application, which then, if you want to validate it nationally in the United States, you also get the US patent number. I hope that this summarizes it a bit and answers the question. And now the last question is, how can I make sure not to violate an existing patent claim? Do you recommend a lawyer here? I would say it depends. If it is really, I mean, if it is really a case like quite often that you get, let's say, a letter or a mail from a patent owner urging you to stop violating their patent. Quite often they use softer words, but this is the meaning. Then you should go for a lawyer. But if it is still in an early stage that you have not received a letter from this patent owner, you could take a look on your own and clearly maybe ask somebody like me, for instance, who is offering such a service for Upper Austrian companies, but you also will have such IP experts in your countries. I may especially show you, maybe I will then use the internet to show you that there is an organization called the European IP Help Desk, and there are IP Help Desk ambassadors in most of the countries, at least. We are talking about 45 ambassadors in some approximately 30 European countries. And I can show you the website, and I can also put it then in the chat that you can check which one would be your person you can contact. There is also a free service of the European IP Help Desk called the Helpline, and I may show you both then right afterwards. Yeah, I suppose maybe I really go. Karina, are there any other questions, or is this it?
That's all for now.
Okay, so then I would propose that I really shortly use the internet to show here what I mean. Okay. So, Karina, is it well depicted?
We can see it, yes.
Okay. So I will put this into the chat, I would say. And get back to here. So this European IP Help Desk is a first-line intellectual property service providing free of charge support, especially, or not especially, to European SMEs. So it's not something for bigger companies, but most probably they also don't have such a high demand because they have their own IP experts. But especially European SMEs and also beneficiaries of EU-funded research projects can and here is a bit also this helpline, for instance, is also prominently on this page. So here you can submit your question. It's also a free of charge service. Clearly, it's not legally binding what they say. Yeah? So they will not offer you, let's say, the same amount of legal binding information as a lawyer. But even the lawyers quite often say that they don't take that they don't guarantee the completeness of their legal information and so on. So here you could input your question or signpost the directory. Just have a look at okay, the team is here. Yeah. I have to look at the ambassadors, and here you also have a lot of possibilities. For instance, you have a lot of free of charge IP training, especially webinars are very prominent. So you see here that they have a lot of webinars for different topics. Like, for instance, IP and artificial intelligence, or freedom to operate, or consortium agreements, you name it, IPR and software, technology transfer. So there is really a lot of it, and not all of them, but quite a lot of them are beginner level. So you don't have to fear that you cannot understand it. Quite a lot of them are easy to follow. And here you have a lot of IP resources, like fact sheets, IP guides, and so on. If you look, for instance, at the IP guides, you find something like intellectual property systems, China-Europe comparison, your guide to IP in Horizon 2020, and it will be roughly the same for Horizon Europe, but this has not been finalized. IP commercialization, IP in Europe, IP and contracts. So you see there is a lot of such information. For instance, also fact sheets is even higher. Like, for instance, commercializing IP, license agreements, non-disclosure agreement. So I can really recommend, if you have IP topics, that you pass by this web page. And here is what I meant, this ambassadors team. So you see, currently, we are 45 ambassadors from 27 European countries. And due to the fact that Austria is starting with an A, I am quite in front of the pack. But you have a lot of ambassadors here, and you can look in your very country, who is it? And she or he will be happy to support you, or to at least to tell you where to go. But for quite a number of topics, they will definitively support you directly. So this is actually what I wanted to say here. Maybe I put this additional link into the chat, that you directly get to this ambassadors page, where you can then check which in which country you have which ambassador. So I would say that, yeah, Karina, what do you think? Should we start the feedback?
Yes, let's continue with the survey.
Yeah, please.
Okay, so now I will put one last Mentimeter link into the chat, where we ask you for some general feedback and your main take-home message of today. So here comes the link. So these are just 2 questions. Good. So I think that's great news for you, Udo. You did a practical, helpful IP workshop, as we can read here.
Yeah, that's fine. And as I already indicated, you will also get a mail with a link and a password to the presentations as PDF files on our own cloud, so that you can then take them as a basis for later considerations if you start some own searches, or if you want to hand it over to somebody. And I suppose that this gives at least then a starting point, because then you can take yourself more time. You can go back some slides and see, okay, it started here and here is this and so on. I suppose that this will really be a helpful manual also, although it does not clearly have the, let's say, the idea of being a complete manual for all features of Espacenet. But I think it is a good introduction into how to search, how to build queries, especially taking care about patent classifications, and that it's not that difficult to search for them in these classification searches, although sometimes it may be quite tedious to go through a number of maybe 30, 40, 50 subclasses. But if you find the right one, you're really well off, because then you have a very focused search requiring only few keywords, and normally then the results are also much better without a lot of noise. So I really invite you to go for this quest, because I think although clearly it is a matter of years and of devotion to really improve the skills dramatically, but even if you start, because you start in your own field, you will learn a lot. So I can promise you that this really is a good way to just start making some pattern searches in your own field, and then I'm sure that you will see that you conquer a new territory of knowledge, because patent search has a lot of targets, and knowledge is one of the most important ones. So to increase your knowledge about your technical field by considering patent information is, I think, essential. And therefore, all the best for your quest using Espacenet.
Thank you very much, Udo. Just one last comment from my side. As this workshop was implemented within the EU project DIGI-B-CUBE, it's important for you that you know that if you are a beneficiary of the project, so if you got a voucher and your project funded via DIGI-B-CUBE and did not have the pleasure yet to have an individual talk with Udo on your IP issues, then you can contact him for an individual coaching, we call it. I now show you once again Udo's contact details. Just get in touch with him in order to discuss your own individual IP questions and issues.
Thanks a lot, Karina. So I may extend this to indicating that you can also come along with a patent search topic, which I could also make in this individual coaching. So I really invite you to take this opportunity, because I'm always curious in hearing about innovative new topics, and on the other hand, I am curious, but I don't talk about it clearly, so it rests with me. You are can be assured that I will keep it confidential. But myself, I'm always looking for hearing new inventive things coming along, and this is one of the very rewarding features of my job, that I hear a lot of very interesting new innovative ideas over the years. Hopefully also from you.
So that's a great message to close, I think. So once again, thank you very much, Udo. Thank you very much, everybody, for participating. I hope you enjoyed it and that it was of interest. Have a nice day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. All the best, and hope to see you at some individual coaching. Bye.